a quick review of what we have discussed so far, and then we expand into today's topic. I'll just take a few minutes. If you have any questions from last week or any other question, feel free to come up right at the onset and we will take them up right now or as we progress. Today is our seventh session on we are trying to make an effort towards understanding Vedanta. So it's a absolute beginners level effort that we are trying to make, and the subject is too vast and we are trying to encapsulate as much as we can in a 12 session pack. We started off with spending few sessions on how do we prepare our mind, and that has been a running theme. Almost every session we have discussed how do we prepare the mind. That initial thought of how do we prepare ourselves will culminate today. That whole process of why that is so important or why that becomes so central to us as seekers or practitioners or lay people will conclude today. Then, even before we get into the structure of the sessions that we have discussed, first of all, why we are trying to discuss Vedantic philosophy. Oriental philosophies that have originated in India and around India, they have tried to solve the problem of human dissatisfaction and human suffering in several ways. And Vedanta, or the knowledge available through the Vedas, help us solve the problem of human suffering through a particular viewpoint. That viewpoint has been tested, debated, and people have found that viewpoint to be useful. And hence, we are trying to tiptoe into that knowledge base so that we can understand and apply that knowledge in our daily lives so that we can reduce our own dissatisfaction, our own suffering, our own challenges of human experience. If we could do that through the discussions that we are having, then it makes sense. If we cannot, then we have not been able to understand. So the ultimate goal of these discussion is to take back something and utilize it to reduce our daily dissatisfactions and the larger question of suffering. So that's what we are trying to do through the study of Vedantic philosophy. That's our bigger purpose. So keep that purpose in mind, because the detailing of the topic sometimes removes us from the initial question. If we are removed from the initial question, then this becomes an intellectual exercise rather than something that we could utilize or something we could put into practice. So any philosophy which cannot be put into practice, then that philosophy is just an intellectual exercise which can become boring or overwhelming. Like, at the end of it, if you feel what is the point of knowing all these things, that will mean that we have not been able to understand the philosophy at all. If at the end of all these discussions, by the time we finish our discussion today and next 5 sessions, we should be able to understand ourselves a little bit better, understand our experiences a little bit better. So that's the bigger goal, and that's why we are doing this. So this should always be at the top of our mind, that it is not purely an intellectual exercise. Spirituality has to have practical applications, has to have utility in my daily life. Otherwise, that spirituality is of no use to me. So that has to manifest, that has to come about. That's one. Now, in our effort to understand the Vedantic philosophy, there are three main characters. One is the Jiva, which is ourselves, the self that is experiencing the world. So we must understand how we are structured, or what is the viewpoint that is being provided on us as human beings, as people who are experiencing this world. So that's the anatomy of Jiva part. Then comes the anatomy of the Jagat. So we are experiencing something. this world, people, and the environment, and the space, and the sun, and everything that we experience around us, the cosmos, whatever we see needs to be structured again. So, Jeev, Jagat. So, in reality or in our experience, this is all we have, Jeev and Jagat. Beyond this is the Brahma, which we will try to intellectually understand because we do not have a direct experience of it. I'm pretty confident that all of us in the group do not have a direct realization of what is a Brahman. So, till that happens, we will be discussing it from an intellectual point of view. So, we have had a couple of days of discussion on the anatomy of self, anatomy of Jiva, in which we brought out two important concepts. One is of the Sharir Traya and another is of the Panchakoshas. Sharir Traya is structurally how we are defined, what Vedanta has to say about how we are structured experience wise, how do we progress is the Panchkosha side. Structurally, the Sharir Traya is important because the gross body is what we experience. Then the breaking up of the mind into your mind to ahankar to the chitta. So that breaking up of my mind where thoughts and emotions arise and I give meaning to my thoughts and emotions and how they impact me in misidentification of self, that layering happens through the Sharir Traya. Now, Sharir Traya is important from the point of view of karma and vasanas. Whatever I enact, whatever I do has an impact or leaves an imprint on my mind. My subtlest mind, my chitta, it goes and cuts a groove right up to there, not only to my physical brain, but right at the end. So when I die, when my body is no more, this form is no more, what goes beyond is defined or is, yeah, what goes forward is defined because of the Sharir Traya. That my subtle and my causal body will go forward and that will take my samskaras forward, which are nothing but the imprints of my actions in my mind. That is what you call karma. Karma is cause and effect, and the cause and effect cuts a groove in your brain, and that gives you a particular characteristic when you are reborn. So, reincarnation and the samskaras that you carry forward are the result of this structuring because you have to have a structure for the logic to go forward. So, this structure of the Sharir Traya allows me to have karma, samskaras, vasanas, and the idea of reincarnation. If you remove the Sharir Traya, then we do not have these pillars of understanding or these pillars or rather these viewpoints. If you do not have the Sharir Traya, what goes forward you cannot explain. Similarly, you cannot explain what do you experience when you are sleeping, when you are dreaming, and when you are sleeping without any dreams, deep sleep. To explain these states and to explain reincarnation and to explain your predefined characteristics, this structural definition has been provided to us. Is this part clear to us?
Yes, sir.
Sharir Traya and its role in carrying forward the logic of reincarnation that is closely related to the samskaras and the karmic fallout of our action. So, is this part clear? So, no, why I'm asking this? Because Sharir Traya will have no meaning if I do not have reincarnation coming into picture. Then the Sharir Traya has no meaning or no practical application in my life because I can only understand the gross body and I can understand my thought and my emotions. Beyond that is something that I only presume. So this presumption needs to be supported, and that presumption and the logic of getting reborn is being supported by this Sharir Traya. Now you have the Panch Koshas. Panch Koshas give you what you experience where. So you experience your gross body in your Anandamaya Kosha, and then you have your Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and your Pranamaya Kosha. So you have these three. So you have your energy, you have your feelings, and you have your discrimination. These three in your subtle body. That's how your mind is also layered. And then you have your Anandamaya Kosha, where your subtlest misidentification reflects. Like you, if you can understand and experience Anandamaya Kosha, you will be the closest to removal of misidentification. Okay. So that's how your experience-wise those Panch Koshas are layered. Any questions on these two or anything prior to that, Panch Koshas and the Sharir Traya? Now, let us come to today's discussion. Jagat, and how do you see the world through the Vedantic lens? So, last week, I left you with the idea that Jagat is Mithya. And Mithya means unreal. But actually, Mithya has one more meaning, which is relevant in Vedanta, that Mithya would mean its independent existence is not possible. Something whose independent existence is not possible is what you call Mithya. So Jagat Mithya. So Jagat, the world that we experience, its independent existence is not possible. So this is something that, like, again, we are going into the structure of the world that we are discussing. And one of the foundational concepts of Jagat, or the things that we experience, is that you cannot have Jagat in isolation. Its reality is a dependent reality, not an independent reality. Keep that in mind as we go ahead. Now, what are other characteristics, or how do you look at Jagat from a Vedantic lens? So, one is that it is impermanent. So, the concept of impermanence runs through, whether it is Advaita, Shaivism, whether it is Sankhya, whether it is yoga or Buddhism, of course. So, this concept of permanent, this world and its experiences being impermanent, runs through all the philosophies that originate out of India. That Jagat is in a constant flux. The forms that arise, like any form that you see, will arise, will transform, will dissolve, and change is without exception. Everything that you see, all experiences that you have, are going to change. Our purest intentions, our deepest love, our most extreme emotion, whether good or bad, of joy or of sorrow, anything, any gross or subtle thing, if it is of the world, will be impermanent. This has to, now, the direct charge of this is, like, when you think that the world is impermanent, then the next question of a doubting mind, or of a mind which is questioning, sometimes we go through periods in life where we are not motivated to do anything. And then we say that if Jagat is impermanent, if the world is impermanent, then why make the effort to live a life which is fulfilling, to live a life which is ethical? So impermanence needs to be understood with two terms. There are two kinds of realities. One is a permanent reality, that is of the Brahman, and second is the Vyavaharik uh, reality, or the transactional reality, which is also real. And to engage with the world, this Jagat, which is impermanent, with a point of view which is cynical, will have consequences, because this is in no ways being denied. That its existence is dependent, but it is not denied. That it is not non-existent, it is not null and void, it is very real, just that the reality is dependent. And this reality, or anything that you experience, keeps changing. Now, Tell me one reason or one way this knowledge can be utilized in real world. That everything is impermanent. Share some input. This is not a new concept for us. Why impermanence is such an important topic.
So that we don't get attached to any emotions very strongly in the transactional world.
What's wrong with getting attached with emotions?
Because then we'll be stuck in this loop in the transactional world, probably. Because
Tell me from a practical point of view,
oh,
if I'm attached to a emotion, why is it wrong?
you lose sight of other perspectives.
Sir,
Yes.
from my perspective, emotion is not wrong, but expectation is wrong.
Expectations, okay. How do you trace it back to impermanence? How do you trace it back to impermanence?
Impermanence.
So, I'll again rephrase my question that if world is impermanent and that's a knowledge we have, how do we use that knowledge in real world? It's a good thing to know that world is impermanent. We know that we will age, we will fall sick, we will
Emotion
die.
is also changing. Emotion is also changing.
Emotion is also changing. Okay. What else?
Yes, sir. I feel everything is changes, situation changes, emotion changes. We will be not immortal. So everything is changing. So there is nothing to cling. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
In this way, impermanence is related to reality.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I feel in any situation, if anything happens to us, that situation will not last. But I feel some growth or something is there, whether that emotion is joy or happiness. That is not permanent because it is a shifting towards my growth, means evolve as a better person so that to make me a better version of myself. That's why it is impermanent. Whatever situation, whether it is a good situation or bad situation, these all are our perspectives. So that acceptance that it is going to change, because
Yeah.
I might be some potential hidden which I'm not aware of, fundamental darkness or whatever, that has to come up over surface level so that I can transit from that and I can understand it more deeper way. That's what I feel.
Okay.
That's what it's saying impermanence.
Actually, all of you are correct, and we have discussed impermanence before also, that we become lot more adaptable at a daily level or a everyday life. We become someone who is quite adaptable to whatever life throws at us. Somebody who is meditating or cultivating this idea of impermanence within themselves will become quite adaptable as human beings. Second, we stop living in the past. You will see that men and women both value their youth very differently. Men value that they were so strong when they were younger. Women would say they were of a certain form when they were younger. So, this idea of clinging on to youth has repercussions as we age. And that adaptability, that we will be different as human beings, our form will change, our what you call root will change as we age. This is a very personal thing. It impacts everyone differently. So the moment somebody is hitting 40 and they have to wear glasses and they have never worn glasses, that's a strike back that, wow, I have to wear glasses now. The moment you have your wrinkles and look different in the mirror, you want to cling on to the old photograph that you had clicked when you were 16 or 20. You keep repeating that you are that. So to handle aging, this impermanence is a very good tool. So those who inculcate this idea of impermanence can handle aging very gracefully and with purpose. Third is, how do we handle death? There are some of us who are scared of death. There are some of us who are taken aback emotionally for few days, few weeks, few years by somebody passing who is close to us. And our capacity to handle death depends upon our understanding of impermanence, our lived understanding of impermanence. I may never have heard the word impermanent, or I may not have ever attended a discussion on impermanence, but this is an idea which is born within intuitively also. Somebody who is invested in this idea can handle aging and can handle death at a more mundane level. If I hold bitterness against people, if you do not revive a emotion over and over again, it will die out. If you see an extreme emotion at this present moment, you can reflect on this idea. This emotion that I feel so intensely now will not be that intense tomorrow and a week later. So I should respond in a way that will not allow me to regret this response a week later, because the intensity of the emotion, no matter how bitter it is, will come down with time. So I should have my dignity and my response measured, because my emotions are going to be impermanent. So these are some of the ways that you can utilize this idea of impermanence. And impermanence is important to handle attachment as well, like mother and child relationships. Children grow up, they go out, and if the mother wants to hold on to the child, then that relation becomes dysfunctional in a modern world. The child has to grow and move out as well, that you will grow emotionally and your relationship will change. The whole idea of change, impermanence, should be seen from the point of view of change. Impermanence is generally a more negative term, because if everything is impermanent, then it's a very difficult thing to take. But if everything is changing or can change, or it will change, then this change is a more relatable word in a everyday life situation. So instead of thinking world is impermanent, we can rephrase it that world is going to change, and our experiences from outside and from within both will be subject to change. So change is the milder word of impermanence, and change is something that we can all relate to. Any thoughts, any inputs? Give me 1 second, please. Yeah. So change. So that's something that we must look at. Any thoughts on impermanence that I may have missed? No. So anitya or impermanence as a foundational idea behind the Jagat that we experience. That's one. Now, the second point is Naam Roop. So everything of this world has to have a name and has to have a form, a label and a form. Without a label and a form, this world will be unrelatable. So anything that is of the world will have a label, which is name, and will have a form. When I first heard this idea, I found it to be so obvious and so surprisingly true, both at the same time. I was surprised to know that everything in this world will have a form and a label. And if there is anything of this world which is without a form and a label, if I could find it, or if I could understand something which is without a form or a label, then I will be out of this mix of birth, death, and rebirth. So, label and form, without this, our world does not revolve. Question or comment or thoughts on this idea? Give me one thing that you can say that it is without label, it is without form.
Sir, is it our thoughts?
Thoughts, you will be able to quantify your thoughts.
But when I identify, then only it gets.
Yes. Yeah, of
when
course.
I acknowledge.
Yeah. So thoughts, you tell me one that you are calling it a thought in itself is a label.
Okay.
Nothing of this world is beyond name and form. Now, let us come to our koshas here. remember how we have Anandamaya Kosha and Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya Kosha? Our experiences are getting subtler and subtler. Keep this in mind. I'm introducing another word that we have gunas. Everything of this world will have some kind of gun, either sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. And a combination of this gunas with the Panchamahabhuta, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash. So 5 Panchamahabhuta combined with the gunas and combined with the Naam Roop. This completes the trilogy of the experiential world. Everything that you can name will be either of sattvic nature or rajasic nature or tamasic nature. And it will be made of either of the 5 elements or a combination of the 5 elements. So 5 elements that are given in Panchamahabhuta are your building blocks of this universe. When these building blocks come together, they give structure to what the form will have a name, and the form that you see or experience will have a quality. So the building are your Panchamahabhuta. Then you have your name and the form, which is the result of mixing the Panchamahabhuta, because you can see things or you can think of things. There has to be labeling. Otherwise, we do not understand anything without a label. How do you explain to someone what you are seeing? Label is almost a must for us to identify an object. Form is almost a must to see or experience it. So you have the building blocks in Panchamahabhuta, you have the name and the form. Once you have name, form, and the building blocks done, then you have to have the qualities of things that you see. That quality is given by the 3 gunas that we have. So guna, your Naam Roop, and your Panchamahabhuta. These are the structural building blocks of this world that we are experiencing. Any remarks or any thoughts here? I'll expand on this then.
So this you said form, name, and label. This 3 thing or 2 thing?
No.
The same.
Name is labeling.
Thank you.
So now, let us get into the discussion of gunas a little. So you have sattvic, rajasic, and you have your tamasic. So the grossest amongst things will be your tamasic. The most active amongst your things will be rajasic. And the most clear and most light, most closest to your reality, the permanent reality, will be sattvic. So you have these 3 in the experience zone, or this is the quality of things. So the food can be such, my behavior can be such, my work can be such. Any object, animate or inanimate, could be seen through the qualities that I just mentioned, that either it will be tamasic or rajasic or sattvic. So this is another way we can experience or see our world. Okay. Then we have another point of view to see the world is that this will be a cause and effect order. So like you have impermanence as one of the foundational qualities, another foundational concept that goes with the understanding of this world is cause and effect, which is that if you do something, there will be an impact on you and on others of what you have done. So whatever you do cannot be without a impact. If your actions disturb you, pull you down towards the grossest nature, that is what you call a tamasic act. If your actions help you free yourselves, then that is what you call a sattvic act. Actions also can be classified into tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. So this cause and effect order, that if you have done something, there will be repercussions. If repercussions are not punishments, these are like cause and effect. It's like a law that works in this world. that if you have done something, there has to be a impact on you of the thing that you have done. If you have spoken something, then there will be an impact of that on your mind. If you have thought something, it has to have an impact. Your speech, your thought, your action are not without any impact on yourself, let alone the outer world. It may not have an impact on the outer world, but it will definitely have an impact on you, on your body, on your mind, and at the samskara level as well. So you are looking at the law of causality or law of cause and effect. This is very important to remember. Then this world as a field of experience, that world is an object of experience and not the experience itself. Like, this world is different from you. You are experiencing this world as an instrument of learning. Why? Because we are ignorant and misidentified with things and with body and with mind, with thoughts, etc. So this misidentification has to go away. So instead of arriving at divinity, we are relearning our divinity here. So this world as an instrument of learning, this world as a field of experience. Another way to look at the world is that this world is structured from the point of view of physical world, emotional world, and the intellectual world. More like the koshas that we have described. Koshas are for the self, and this physical, emotional, and intellectual segregation of the Jagat is also a reality. So you call Bhu, Bhuva, and Swaha. So these are different point of views through which you can look at the world that we experience. Questions, comments, any thoughts on what I have just mentioned so far?
Yes, sir. This one, I was not knowing this cause and effect, that these gunas also are connected. I was not aware of it, that how
Okay.
can, if you give more example, that you said that thought, mind, that also, because generally it is my belief that food we eat or whatever, that mindset I was having, but these also are having that tamasic and rajasic effect on the thoughts or what thoughts we create. Thank you.
So anything of this world can be characterized into three aspects, as if they have only three qualities or three kinds of qualities. One is of tamasic nature, which is total inertia, darkness, numbness, heaviness, laziness, things when they don't want to move, when experiences push you towards your gross body, or when your thoughts push you towards your gross body, or when your speech disturbs you so much that it has an impact on your body. So then everything goes back to this tamasic nature. So the grossest experience in any form will relate to tamas. So
Okay.
say, for example, food. Food, tamasic food will be, say, for example, alcohol. That will be totally tamasic because that pushes you towards numbness, right? Boiled vegetables will help you meditate because they digest very quickly. So that kind of food is sattvic. And if you eat good carbohydrate rich food, which will help you act and perform different activities, so that's your rajasic foods. So this is one way to look at it. Then your speech, for example, if your speech is full of foul language, then that's the tamasic expression of speech. If your speech helps someone, your friend who is in need of support, then that speech is of the highest order, and that is your sattvic kind of speech. If your speech is helping you to work and helping others to work and is work oriented, activity oriented, or is transactional in nature, or is of the world basically, then that speech is considered rajasic in nature. Similarly, any thought that I have, say I am really angry on someone and I am annihilating him or her in my mind, then that annihilation has a cost on the mind. I have not done anything to her, I have not said anything to him, but I have annihilated a person in my mind, and that has a cost. That is your most tamasic kind of thought that you could have. So annihilation is one way to look at it. You could have lustful thoughts, thoughts of jealousy. So those are tamasic. Then you have your rajasic thoughts that will motivate you, become more productive, focus. These are all thoughts of the world that make you active and productive in the right way. And then you have sattvic thoughts that help you evolve, explore, question the existence and everything that is structured. Everything could have these three qualities.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mona Lisa, yes, please.
Sir, I was wondering when you were talking about tamasic, sattvic, and rajasic in thought and speech. But let's say have spoken something with an intention to, let's say, when you correct us, okay? But when you correct us, I might get offended about how you are not seeing how far I have come. Let's say when you're correcting an asana or a thought process or the way I speak. Now, whose perception are we keeping in mind? Because both of us, again, and you are saying a mithya of a sort, that both of our perceptions regarding the words spoken might be reality. I might be thinking that you are very critical of me as a teacher, able to see through all the struggles I am experiencing to reach, let's say, a certain posture. And you are trying to give me a balanced criticism, not flooding me with compliments that might make me lose focus of where I have to, how far I have to still go. So
Yeah.
this is a tricky situation. So whose perception are we going to keep in mind? Because both of us may be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, both of us could be right. Now, let us look at what is at play. So, say I am speaking. So, my motivations matter to me. Right? So, if I'm critically, say, analyzing a student, and that is from a point of view to help them improve,
Mm.
then that will matter to me. That will how it will disturb or register in my mind that I wanted to improve, and that's the impact. Now, from the point of view of the student who is one, he or she is a student, and at the receiving end of my
Suggestions, give a criticism, however, is being perceived by the student.
yes. Now, if somebody is not perceiving things from a point of view that should be perceived from, if that discrimination is not there within you, then that discriminative power has to be brought out. Because when you are listening, then if your discriminative quality is alive and kicking, then you will know what was the motivation behind what is being said. If that discrimination is lost on you, then you will not be able to distinguish between correction and criticism. And then there is something to work on, which is discrimination for you. Getting my point?
Yes, sir. That is a perspective that I think I have been getting. But I was thinking how some of us have different styles of correction,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with adults also, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Absolutely.
just saying, let's say some people think that you cannot dole out compliments
Yeah.
because the student is really far removed from the standard expected of a certain.
Yes.
Let's say if I was doing TTC with you, no matter how far I have come in my own journey, I may not meet the requirements of the TTC course. And that is when you will have to be probably harsher because I'm not understanding. Harsher, not like screaming, but firmness of the words that no, let's say if I don't complete my 200 hours, you will have to fail me. So if you have to fail me and it's something that I'm not being able to understand, so the teacher will be harsher. So I'm saying the words, do you think have to be balanced down to the level of the student or the recipient? Because the teacher has a higher discrimination than the student who may be struggling. So this is obviously specific thing that I'm asking you, but I'm trying to understand my intentions may be right. I may be also saying something you're not understanding it. So I have to be harsh.
I put it this way, that if you are teaching adults, no matter what you are teaching, you can be teaching yoga, or you could be teaching from a point of view that you are trying to help someone. You are taking a role of a mentor, for example. For an adult, especially, you have to be sensitive of what physical and mental disposition they are currently at. Because when you are teaching younger kids, they are not so hard bound in their head. They experience things, they make mistakes, they learn things. You can be harsher on them, especially to get their attention. But when you are dealing with adults, you should make an attempt. Like that's, as a teacher, I feel that one should make an attempt to allow an older student to be unresponsive also at times, because you have no idea. As a teacher, I'm meeting you for 1 hour. I have no idea what kind of effort you have taken to come to me and learn something. And then again, you will go back to a world which is vastly different from that 1 hour that you are spending with me. So I have to be mindful of the fact that I am dealing with adults who are experiencing life. Even though the teachings and what we are discussing are important, but it is not important than the life that is happening
Right.
simultaneously.
Thank you.
So I cannot bulldoze a student with what I think is important. So this I'm like this is more like a personal view I'm giving. Teacher, I feel that, or as a mentor, for example, we mentor our friends also. And what I just said is relevant when we are mentoring our friends or family members, because we know our friends in a certain way, we know our family members in a certain way. Even though we think we know them totally, they are adults in their own rights. They have their flaws, they have their interests, they have their own way of thinking, which is quite established. Now, if you need to make suggestions to them, you have to do that respectfully and subtly, taking into account that they can get offended, and are putting yourself at risk of their scorn when you are trying to suggest a change to any adult human being.
So basically, to conclude, would you say that it is the intention that plays a larger role?
Intention will be the most important thing, but then your intentions are good and your actions do not follow up,
Yes.
then probably you are not true to your intentions. It could be that I want to live a very healthy life, but every night I go out for a snack or I go out to drink. Then my intention and my actions don't match. I want to love everyone in my family, but I cannot do away with the sarcasm. Then my intention and my acts don't match.
So that's a
Like,
very nice example. Thank you, sir. Sorry for taking up so much time, sir.
no, no. Any other thought, please? Now, it is 9 o'clock. Can I?
I ask a question like the conversation of Mona Lisa and you, what has happened? According to the three bodies of Vedanta that we talk about, this is the Shukma Sarish or the subtle body, the conversation like which is the energy, intellect, and emotions. A lot of emotions
Yes.
in perspective to what Mona Lisa is saying, like the technicalities, the teaching, and all. It's just an example, but whatever, like everything is going in the mind.
Yeah.
That is the subtle body.
Yes. We experience so much of the world through our mind. Actually,
So
if
again, then the skana or the causal body,
yeah,
if if I want to ask like in such a case, so
yeah,
how it is possible in this?
causal
Is
body.
it possible in causal body? It is
Now,
a why if I'm not wrong, a person who is alive, this all three things are happening, like in the sthul, the shukma, and the karna, the three
yeah,
part, the
yeah.
three things, right, sir?
So we understand the sthul sharir, the gross body. We
Yes, sir.
also understand the shukshma sharir, also mind,
The subtle
emotion,
body, yeah.
subtle body. Now the causal body is where your samskaras are stored. So if I am of a particular predisposition, say if I am someone who gets very angry, and I am getting angry, and every day I get angry, and that's a pattern that I have repeated, so that gets registered in my head. If I am someone who procrastinates and I keep doing that, I don't work on it, then that gets registered in my causal body, and I am born with them again. So causal body is the storehouse of my samskaras, which is nothing else but one act or repeated acts. So one act can have a major impact on me, that can be stored, or repetitive actions will also be stored there. Okay, that's how I behave. So if I'm behaving certain way and I don't change the way I behave, then it's a challenge for me, because one of the perspectives of the world is that it is a ground for learning. And if I don't learn the fact that I need to behave in a certain manner, then that learning has not happened. Meaning that groove that I have cut in my brain still remains, and I will be born with those challenges and behavioral traits that will place me in positions to face similar challenges so that I can learn again. You get Anindita what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
People think suicide is an answer. Just give me 1 second. Those who are pushed to that extreme, it's a knowledge that we should have that our challenges are born in the mind, and that will not go away even if we were to finish our life. It will carry forward no matter what. If I do not learn whatever I need to learn right now, if I don't bring about changes that I should bring about to improve myself, that task is in, if that is left incomplete, remains incomplete. So I have to keep working on it. And that's why the world is also a place where we learn.
Yes, sir. It's deep.
Yeah. So
More
that's
and
how
more
causal
we-
body is connected.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me just conclude what we did. What I wanted to discuss is not over yet. Like, how do we utilize this information is what I'm going to discuss in the next class. I have these panch koshas, and I have this sharir traya, and I have the gunas, and I have the impermanence. But this knowledge that I have right now, how do I use it? We just went into it a little bit with the impermanence part, but we will go into the details and try to understand or create a framework of living so that this information can be utilized. Thank you so much. I hope it was
Thank
worth
you
your
very
time.